Well, good morning, everyone. This is the November Fall NILROC webinar entitled Sifting Through the CRAAP, Tools to Teach Evaluation of Resources. My name is Amy Glass. I am a reference librarian at Illinois Central College. I have been here since 2005. And I've been part of the NILROC Information Literacy Committee for, I don't know how long, almost 9 years, I believe. I'll pass my introduction off to my co-presenter, Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Steffen. I'm the Access Services Librarian with Jefferson College. I've been here, which is in Hillsborough, Missouri. I'm new to the NILROC. This is actually my first semester. And I've been with the Jefferson College though for about 7 years or so. Like Amy said, welcome to our webinar. Amy, if you don't mind switching to the next slide, thank you. So what we'll talk about, the move away from CRAAP. Lots of libraries seem to be moving away from that. SIFT, what that is and how it's being used, and some other tools for information literacy. So why the move away from CRAAP? It's a checklist, which if you read a lot of the literature, that's something that is not being used too much when it comes to information literacy. Especially with CRAAP, there are a lot of questions associated with each letter. I think total there's about 27. So if you go through and answer each one of those questions associated with that letter, it can take a lot of time. And they're finding that most students aren't spending that much time answering those questions. They're kind of just going through quickly and maybe not spending as much time as possible that they should be. And then it only focuses on that one website, that one article. And as we all know, websites can appear pretty slick. It can be very easy to pass an agenda, and somebody who doesn't have those media literacy, those information literacy skills may not be able to pick up on it very well. So they just kind of take it for face value. So a lot of them are starting to look at this SIFT. So what exactly is SIFT? So each letter obviously stands for something. The first S is stop. So you want to ask yourself whether you know anything about the source or the site. What is the reputation of it? And also, if you're doing this fact checking and you feel like you're starting to get overwhelmed, you can also stop and remember why you're doing it. So thinking about what you know about that site before you kind of move on to anything else. The I is investigate the source. So you want to know what you're reading before you read it. Taking the time to figure out where that information is coming from helps you really understand their trustworthiness. Find, you want to find trusted coverage. So doing what they call lateral searching. So not focusing on just that website or that article and going outside of it. So what are other reputable news stories? What are some other reputable organizations? Basically, what are other people saying about that topic? So you're not just focusing on that website or that article, but you're seeing what other people are saying about it. And then T is you want to trace the claims, quotes, and media back to the original context. So this can be difficult. So you basically want to trace that original article, that original story back to the original source so you can see if it was accurately presented. So it's kind of finding a string and then pulling on it until you eventually get back to the starting point, which as we all know, if things go viral, they get shared by a bunch of different things. So it can be difficult to find that original context.
Elizabeth, I'll interject here with that last one in particular.
Sure.
A lot of that will be using things like reverse image search in Google, where if you've got a photo, you want to do a reverse image search in Google and see if you can find where it was originally published, things like that. And as you said, a lot of times it's these viral video clips that you only get just the briefest part of it. You need to actually find the entire clip. So that's what that last part in particular means to me. So, as far as the SIFT test, it was developed by the gentleman by the name of Mike Caulfield. Just doing a little reading on him in this last link that I've included on this slide here. There's an article on him and why he developed the SIFT test in Inside Higher Ed. My boss alerted all of our library staff to this article, and that's kind of what got us on the road to thinking about using SIFT instead of CRAAP. This digital polarization initiative that he started, according to that article, and I quote, invites civic discourse by developing information literacy skills in undergraduates. So he is very much focused on the undergraduate level information literacy skills. That book mentioned there, Web Literacy for Student Fact Checkers, is actually an open education resource that he has. I'm not sure where it's located. I think maybe the article has a link to it that you can get to that right there. If you want me to, I can go into this link, but this is basically just an interview with Mr. Caulfield. And he's a very interesting gentleman. So within that article though, he goes into what he calls check please. And this is the lesson plan that he has created for this. It is a fully customizable course. In other words, you can take this and do with it what you want. You can add your logo. If there's a particular section that you don't think your students need, you can take that out. This link, however, will be the correct link at all times, the most up-to-date link. He's always working on updating this. I've also believe there's going to be more modules with this. And basically what it works on is building a habit of fact checking. As librarians, we tend to do that on it's kind of ingrained in our systems. But this is basically working with undergraduates to get them to develop that habit. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And let's see if this comes up here. Yeah. And as I said, this course is built so that it can be easily copied and modified by teachers wishing to customize it. And then here are the different lessons. Just an introduction, but then there's lessons on each one. And so if you want to go into just investigate the source, and there's like for example, there is a video here with this that goes along with this, and then he talks a lot about adding Wikipedia, which I think is an interesting thing, but it is a good thing to go on. And then there's a whole bunch of things like that with that. There is a prompt here, which I thought this was actually kind of fun. And so they start having you go through that, the students go through that on a regular basis, and so on. And then there are activities within each lesson. And as I said, each one you can do on your own. So, or you can develop into your own. And there will be more modules coming with this. So, the version I tend to use, though, we learned about SIFT after I found this set. This is, if any of you are familiar with John Green's Crash Course series, back in the beginning of this year, he did a 10-part series called Evaluating Digital Information. And it is very much built on the SIFT ideas. One whole lesson is nothing but lateral reading. There is one whole lesson on about Wikipedia, and how he encourages students to use Wikipedia, but how to use it correctly. One of the things I do like about the Wikipedia lesson is that he basically says Wikipedia is now a teenager. you know, we still think of Wikipedia as the unreliable, but you know, but it is getting to the point where while there are still problems, you can learn a lot, and it talks about the different ways to use Wikipedia. This link here is a YouTube, the playlist for the entire series. Each video clip runs about 10 to 15 minutes. So you are talking about 2 hours of time if you do use this. John Green partnered with MediaWise, the Poynter Institute, and the Stanford History Education Group to come up with this video series. So I teach an introduction to research class. It's only an 8-week class, and it's only a 1-credit class, but I have incorporated these videos into my class. As an 8-week class with 10 lessons, the first week gets 2 lessons, the last week gets 2 lessons, everybody else gets 1 lesson per week. And then I personally created an assignment out of this by having, after the students watching this. And this was question 1, that I found this link for this quote from Bono at the 2017 Munich Security Conference, and I said, hey, does this pan out? And the students have to follow the links. They have to document where they find their information and tell me yes or no, does it pan out? And it takes them to places like Politico and things like that, which do tend to be more credible. And actually this one does pan out, that it is true, that the stats he gives here are basically true. The second question I use is this one right here, that a friend of mine has said she's been published, and the journal that she's going to publish her article is called Advances in Crop Science and Technology. I included this because at the time I was doing a lot of reading about predatory publishers. And lo and behold, this journal is from a predatory publisher. So that also kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone, in the fact that it gets students to look at the fact that, you know, looking at where does this particular journal come from, and then what is a predatory journal. So that's just something that I came up with for using the crash course videos. So, and I'm going to jump back to Elizabeth at this point.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at what some other universities are doing when it comes to information literacy. So the first one we're going to look at is this Florida Coast University. The link there is to their LibGuide for information literacy.
Do you want me to go ahead and jump to it, please?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Nope, that's fine.
So you'll see here that in the bottom kind of right-hand side, that information literacy assessment, the Florida Gulf Coast University librarians, they performed an assessment on the information literacy skills of their students. And what they found, they looked at papers both from classes that had a library use instruction and those that hadn't. And they found that the papers scored higher when they had that library use instruction session when it was compared with classes that had not. It wasn't a huge jump, it wasn't, you know, a huge amount, but it was enough that they noticed. But they also noticed too that students struggle with using sources effectively and ethically. So, you know, those citations that run, you know, we always kind of run into issues with citations, how exactly you use those sources that you find when it comes to writing your papers. And so those librarians felt that maybe more intervention by the librarians and the faculty would, you know, be helpful with that. But the LibGuide also offers a lot of activities. There's a lot of handouts. It comes from, you know, the ACRL, IFLA, all kinds of things. So there's all kinds of different links available here to kind of help your students with that information literacy. If we can go, yep. So the next one is the University of Pittsburgh, their library system. So right here, they just kind of talk about, it's for a faculty resource, which is helpful. They offer tutorials. You can see those instruction tutorials over there on the right, things about avoiding plagiarism, developing research topics, all kinds of great things. And then it also in the middle there links to specific LibGuides. So again, things about research process, selecting a topic, how you construct these search strategies. And it seems like it might even build a little bit on the ACRL frameworks, kind of, with especially with those different LibGuides in there. So I'm going to pass it back over to Amy here.
Okay. And so the next one is from the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. This one I thought was very interesting. It is very specific to criminal justice in some ways, but not as much as you would think. And there are, again, like tutorials and stuff like that. But the thing that I thought was very interesting, again, it is very much focused towards faculty. There is presentations on how and what an information and literacy infused assignment should look like, what faculty members need to avoid when they're creating something that would be an information literacy thing. And then there is this tab in particular, which I thought was very interesting, the assignment do's and don'ts. Basic sure that that we don't specify this arbitrary specifics. Don't use the internet. We've had how many faculty members say to students, don't use the internet? That doesn't give them the skills to need to be able to access and learn how to use the internet properly when that's probably what they're going to be using later on after they get out of school. The whole idea of don't use Wikipedia, that there is a use for it, but use only scholarly resources. Talk about the types of sources that they could run into. Sometimes there may not be scholarly resources. And I thought this whole checklist of designing for faculty was a really good link for helping faculty members who want to work on incorporating information literacy. And then there are other links that you can see up the top there with the tabs. Their fact-checking verification and fake news takes them to a different LibGuide altogether on that. So, and then there was the assignment ideas too, particular ideas for faculty to use on this. So I thought that was a very interesting one. Common sense education is actually more for K through 12, but and sometimes, at least with the community colleges, when you're talking some of like developmental courses, that maybe the grade 11, grade 12 resources might be your best bet. I also thought that this key vocabulary was a really nice idea, that sometimes that you need to explain to students that an ad, a banner ad, what is retouching, that sometimes students may not know what that is. So this common sense, it may be a little younger than we need to be, but right here is digital citizenship, and this is the curriculum, and you can see here it talks about for particular grades that it starts all the way through kindergarten, which is really great. Here's the news and media literacy, but it even talks about how to use it in kindergarten. But as I said, as you go through here, that you might want to go into maybe this 9th grade one, and hoaxes and fakes might be something that you can incorporate for some of the, as I said, if you've got developmental classes. Let me go back. The last little piece that I've got here is something that I have installed on my web browser at work, and it's called NewsGuard. NewsGuardTech.com is the link to go in to download it. It is a web extension for all major browsers. So, and what it does is it basically, if you see a news source, it also integrates with Facebook. So if you need, see a news source in your Facebook feed, you'll notice that there's this little green check mark right here, or this little red warning type of thing. Basically, NewsGuard goes through and tells you, gives you an idea of trustworthiness regarding this. When I go to the next slide, this takes me to why they give newsandguts.com a failing grade. That you know, that there is some credibility things, but there is a lot of correction that they have to do, or that they don't do on a regular basis. They don't do a very good job of distinguishing between what is news and what is opinion. They don't tell you who sponsors the group. Up here, they found out that billionaire Mark Cuban is one of the investors on it. But it does also do things like tells you that. So this gives you the credibility for this website and why they give it a failing grade or not failing grade. There is also a full nutrition list that I couldn't grab the screenshot on, but it really goes into much more detail on each one of these credibility things. So the previous screens were what it looks like in Facebook. This is actually what it looks like when you do through Google. So most Google sources, if you do install this web browser, you're going to see these little things in your resource lists. There are a couple of sites that I do find that I'm a little like, you know, they give WebMD a credible thing on that, and I'm a little like, I'm not a big fan of WebMD myself. But, you know, so you do have to do a little thinking on it too, but it does give students a little bit of a tool to think about with this. I've included this one here down a little farther under YouTube. CNN has their own YouTube channel, but they give it this gray eye. That's the third icon. What that means is that YouTube publishes the stuff, but YouTube doesn't vet it. So in other words, they will say, here is the information, but we haven't looked at it. So don't necessarily trust that. YouTube comes up like that. Wikipedia comes up like that. Anytime you use NewsGuard, if you've got the NewsGuard extension and a Wikipedia article comes up, it's always going to have that gray little eye right there. I think the bad news with NewsGuard is the fact that there is no mobile version. I did a little looking on this yesterday, and there is no mobile version unless you use a Microsoft Edge web browser on Microsoft phones. And it's partially because Microsoft is part of, you know, help develop this NewsGuard thing. So Microsoft's got a little bit of a hand in it. So they were like, sure, we'll make a mobile version out of it. I think this can be a bad news type of thing in the fact that a lot of our students, or at least some of our students I know, their only internet access is through either the computers in your library or on campus, which may not have the browser, or it is on their phone. And that's the only internet access. And I would really, really wish that there would be a mobile version of this. So I'm hoping that many of you have seen that. So, so at this point, this has been a fairly short webinar here today, but we're open to any questions any of you may have.
Just want to chime in right now. Questions, but also ways that you are using tools and what they are at your own institutions.
This is Beth Mandrell. I just wondered, would you be able to send or give us access to all of those websites that you use so that we can?
Yes, we will make sure.
Tried to write them down, but of course you get something wrong. So
no,
yeah.
I will make sure that you get that I will send the PowerPoint to Brian.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, on the chat, Cynthia Creamer asks about an example in a class activity.
Weeks. I haven't actually done a whole lot with it yet, but a lot of those LibGuides had some stuff. I would do a little more digging in with some of those. Elizabeth, I don't know if you've used anything much with that at this point.
No, I mean, currently we're using IFLA's how to spot fake news, which I think that is something that we need to move away from and move more towards the SIFT idea of not just kind of that checklisty kind of thing. But when we do present with the how to spot fake news, we'll put up an example of the Onion. We'll put up an example from the Chicago Tribune about the story with the where PETA tried to get the copyrights for the selfie that the monkey took in the jungle.
Yes.
So, you know, just to try and test them so that they can see it in real, you know, kind of in real form and see what they think. It's not super involved. It's not, you know, real detailed, but it seems to get the point across. You're welcome. I would be really interested to see what media literacy looks like for kindergarten. That would be super. I don't know how you would do that, but it'd be really interesting to see that in action.
Let me see here. Let me back up a second. Let's see. Go back to this one again. Media literacy in kindergarten. Media balance important. How do we find a happy balance between our online and offline activities? And it's an introductory song.
Aww.
I mean, I haven't looked at that yet. I might have to. I'm afraid to even click on it, and I'm wondering if it'll come up with, you know, so there are videos, and then here is, oh, there's the sheet music. Yay. I love it, and the song lyrics. So there's things to download. So. But I do think that that is something that, and that can also play into something if any of you have partnerships with your local area high schools too. That especially that last one might be something that you want to share with some of those faculty members that you work with or those classes and say, have you guys even thought about any of this stuff? So that's another possibility too, is working them into this so that when they get to you at the college, that they've already got a basis.
I wonder if any of you have used the media bias chart. That's something that one of the instructors had requested that I put on a writing guide that I created for them. It gives all kinds of news and media sources, magazines, newspapers, and it rates them according to their reliability.
Right. Beth, I have seen that and passed it on to a few faculty members. And I do think it's pretty good. The main problem I had with that was that I wasn't exactly sure the expertise of the person who created it. I want to say it was a lawyer, but I cannot remember exactly. But I was a little, I couldn't find enough to find out who exactly they created that and why they created it exactly. So I still had a little bit of hesitancy on that.
Yeah, and we have it on our media literacy LibGuide here at Jefferson College, and it's the same kind of thing. If we show the LibGuide in one of our sessions, you know, we do kind of give the caveat of, you know, this is kind of somebody's opinion on it, and, you know, even the ones in the middle, they aim to be unbiased, but that doesn't mean that sometimes a bias doesn't sneak in, you know, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I would probably also include too that even that media, that web browser extension, that NewsGuard, it can be, I mean, it's as much as it can be, try to be unbiased as possible. It is somebody's opinion on some of these things too. So.
Exactly. And I have it installed on my browser at work as well. And when I was installing it, I was reading some of the reviews, and that was something that a lot of people pointed out, was that they either felt, you know, depending on which side of the aisle they fell on, they either felt that it was, you know, liberal biased, it was conservative biased. So, you know, you were going to have kind of those outliers no matter what, really.
Right. One of the reasons why I picked the example of News and Guts is that it tends to skew liberal, but yet they're still going up, 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 up. Wait a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Any other questions from participants? I don't see any coming in at this time, so let's say thank you to Amy and Elizabeth, and thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you so much for coming.